Are you still running your business on slow, manual spreadsheets? Your most critical data is trapped. Alice is the automated bridge that sets it free. Connect your legacy sources in minutes. Use Simple SQL to transform your data and send it directly to modern tools like Power BI. Alice automates the work so you can automate your business. Stop guessing. Finally, trust your numbers. Get started at alice.dev.
Ho, 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 and happy bankruptcy. That's right, it's a very SEGA Christmas. I'm here with my pal Eric Nance of our podcast and just general data crunching fame. Eric, how are you?
Oh, it's great to be back, Mike. And you've had a stellar lineup recently on your show. So sorry for the listeners. We're going to probably take it down a few notches, but I think we're going to have fun along the way, of course.
Well, I don't think we're taking it down. It will be mildly depressing, though. Eric and I are SEGA aficionados, I would say. The challenge is it's actually far worse than I could ever have imagined. It's one of those situations that I really didn't know how bad it was.
Yeah, at this time of year, as we're recording, you usually want a little holiday cheer. But when you look into the history of all the debacles that I'm sure we'll be touching on, yeah, not the best for your holiday spirit.
Yeah, not the greatest. So, Eric, are you ready for my challenge? I have a bit of a pub trivia game set up for you.
Oh boy, yeah, let's do it.
Don't worry, everybody loses at the end, just like so. So, you want to start with an easy one or a hard one?
Well, let's warm up. Let's do the easy one.
Easy. Okay. What was Sega's most efficient and profitable line of business?
Well, I mean, they were an arcade company through and through back in the old
Ding,
days.
ding, 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 ding. In Japan, the arcade business dwarfed everything else. And not just in Japan, it's like the rest of Sega.
Oh yeah, yep, and
So,
that's how I first knew him. Right? I mean, I grew up
yep,
in the golden age of arcades, and we had
that's
a
right.
little local arcade at my hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan, called the Fun Factory, and we'd go every weekend, piling away quarters at Afterburner and Hang On and all the classics.
All the classics, right? I think in the States here and in Canada, they were called Sega Family Centers or Family Fun Centers, Sega Family
Oh
Fun
yeah,
Centers.
right.
In Japan, they had a slightly different name, but same idea. And then actually later on, they had a completely different name that took Sega out of the name for the arcade because apparently SOA felt, and this is, so one of the sources we used last time we talked about Sega was the Great Book Console Wars. Now, there is a fatal flaw that I've discovered in that book, and I've been reading some. The primary source was the CEO, Tom Kalinske of Sega of America, and the Sega of America executives.
Yeah, that's a one-sided account.
Right. So if you read it, or if you even watch, they made I think it's on Peacock or Paramount Plus, one of those services. They made a TV documentary of it. It's very like SOJ was stupid and evil, and we were awesome, but they kept like hamstringing us. When the truth is, SOJ was making money. And well, let's jump right in. So what killed, or seriously, like they actually still exist, but what seriously injured Sega's cash cow, their Asian and overseas arcade business?
Well, some really poor decision choices in their home console market, i.e., trying to release a
Right.
mushroom-sized thing called the 32X when they
Oh,
had
we'll
no
get there.
business with it. Oh, we'll get okay. So this is before that. Okay. Well, I know Nintendo obviously played a role in
Nintendo hurt, but you know what it was?
Yeah.
I did not know this one. Sony, in their strange revenge campaign against Nintendo, decided that they would just sell PS1s as arcade cabinets. Basically modified PS1s. So
Now I remember. Yep. Good call.
Sega's big innovation was they would make these crazy arcade boards that could do things that nobody else could do, right? Like even Namco was always being kind of dunked on by them.
Yes.
Then Sony's like, yeah, but we'll give you a unified architecture that's more powerful than their stuff. So game makers, arcade game makers, just write it to our system. No problem. That hosed them. And in fact,
because that is obviously, like you said, the arcade business was their bread and butter. And then suddenly here comes good old Sony with this attractive little dev kit and boom.
Well, but that puts it into context, right? So like you read Console Wars and they're complaining about the dismissive attitude of the SOJ executives. And they weren't being jerks to be jerks. Their cash cow was on fire. and they were, this is debatable. I've read two sides about this, but Tom Kalinske was an ad man by trade, right? He's an advertising guy. He spent tons of money on marketing, like crazy amounts of money.
Well, that was pretty obvious in the 80s
in
and
the
90s.
Yeah,
Took
it was
over.
like,
Yep.
Sega's sponsoring TV shows. That's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
How about all those athletic endorsements? Those weren't cheap.
No, they weren't. And boy, I have some research I did about the Dreamcast saga on that side of it. We'll get to later.
Oh,
Yep.
bad. We get to the Dreamcast. Okay, so that's the main problem. Now let's get a little technical. What was the GD-ROM? G is in gamma.
So, yes, this was Sega's attempt to kind of be a little unique and probably to curb what they thought would be piracy, but it kind of backfired on them. But it was
Sure
basically
did.
a 1 gigabyte CD-ROM format as opposed to the 770 megabyte format of typical CD-ROMs. But yeah, this is what the Dreamcast used, and this was a very ill-fated choice because a certain behemoth called the PS2 decided to use DVD format, and you know what happened there.
Right, and the issue is I'm not going to go too deep into their security software and why. So they had to leave a hole so the Dreamcast could actually play CDs, right?
Yep, that's right.
And it turned out that hole could totally be exploited, and that's why Dreamcast, up till this day, has a thriving homebrew community. Because first of all, there was no region lock. There's basically no DRM. You could just pirate Dreamcast files, throw them on assuming you could fit it on a CD-ROM, and bam, you were good to go.
Yeah, and of course, for those listening, Mike and I will never ever advocate, going in these shady means of pirating or whatever. But I do know they did have what was it, a serial port hookup. It wasn't that difficult to walk the line, and you're right. It did lead to not just the piracy aspect of it, but a very thriving homebrew community that I don't think was seen in consoles up to that point. So yeah, it had definitely had some drawbacks, that GD-ROM format.
So a lot of these Sega defenders really want to hang the pirates. I'm going to say pass the rum on this one because there's just no amount of piracy, especially back in the day when it wasn't as easy, right? You didn't have FiOS, couldn't download, a gigabyte of something so quickly. That I don't think it's a substantial detriment. In fact, I think ironically, it made the Dreamcast a more valuable system even to this day because there's just like crazy indie people porting their stuff or making stuff specifically for it.
There's definitely a microcosm throughout this of Sega being kind of ahead of their time on many aspects, and they just could not take advantage of that the right way. And this is one of those for sure.
You ready for more ahead of your time pain?
All right, I'm buckled up. Let's go.
So someone in Sega of America we're going to make fun of it a little bit, but was a brilliant idea. And I'm looking at two consoles, a PS5 and an Xbox X here, that basically followed this idea. What if the console's application layer, an API, was basically a regular computer API? And who could help us with that? Oh, of course, we're our good friends in Microsoft. There was an alternative SDK built entirely on, do you know what version of Windows?
Windows CE.
It's like the professor of the dark arts. You're doomed.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Brilliant idea. Unfortunately, the implementation really, really not good. So now, again, ironically, the homebrew community actually is using this now.
That is right. And if I recall correctly, there was a puzzle game or something that was built into the Dreamcast as a way to test the Windows CE environment. So yeah, it goes deep here.
So the idea that Sega had was, well, you have their regular SDK, which is at the time just like all the other gaming SDKs, right? Low level. We're talking assembler here, basically. Though there was some C poking around. I mean, this is another difference that the modding community has now. Most people are like doing C. There's bridges and stuff. But what if we made it easy for our development community and said, yeah, you lose a little performance, but you're working on Windows anyway. It's Windows with our special libraries, right? Again, dunking like Scottie Pippen over here. Sony did the same thing, except they did it better with their main SDK, which was a pure C SDK, which is why they got so many games so quickly.
Yeah, and I remember getting the PS1 when it first launched, and just wait, this isn't like cartridges where we had to wait a while in the 16-bit era, and of course the N64. Don't even get us started on that. But the fact that we were getting this array of just all sorts of games, and they were much cheaper to make on top just because of the CD-ROM format. But like you said, that development kit, they just ran loose with it, and Sony definitely did their homework on that one.
Yeah, I mean it's a little off, but you could say the Sony PS1 OS was a Unix-ish system, right? I
That's
wouldn't.
right.
It's like Unix proper, but again, they had the right idea, right? If I'm looking at my PS5 here, it's basically a BSD box, right?
I remember, what was it, the PS2 or the PS3?
Free Yellow Dog Linux.
Yellow Dog Linux, baby. Yep.
I remember the Air Force bought like hundreds of them. They were like, "Oh, this is great! Shit, give me these."
Yeah, I don't know if Sony had that in their bingo card when they released the system, but they did.
If I was them, I'd always be like, "Hey guys, you want to buy more?" So my Xbox over here is just a Windows box, for all intents and purposes, right? Right. Yeah,
that is right. And I do think that, the whole idea of Windows CE definitely gave Microsoft, we'll just call it a nice learning opportunity that very much informed what they would do later with Xbox.
Well, so this is where we're going with this one. During this process, they thought it was a good idea to give Microsoft all the schematics to the Dreamcast and their forward development plans. There were some accusations at the time made by certain Sega executives when things went to hell that the Xbox OG, right, the big old regular Xbox, was a hell of a lot like the Dreamcast under the hood.
Mm-hmm. Who would have thunk that?
Who would have thunk that? Just with more memory and a better processor, right? It's in fact, it had very similar networking, although the Dreamcast was stuck in dial-up. Again, another thing they were ahead of the time and paid in spades for.
The first console that had an internal internet access, but would be made better later. But they had it first, and again, something they couldn't take advantage of.
They tried so hard.
I know.
All right. So here's the next one. I think this one you can actually forgive them for. So let's talk about our favorite kind of programming, parallel programming.
Oh, yeah.
So the Hitachi SH4, which just, total Japanese company naming of that device there, right, was a really powerful chip in theory. The problem is it was by design parallel. Now, our younger folks in the audience are going to say, so what? I do, everything's parallel now, async await. None of that stuff existed. There's no Grand Central Dispatch. There's no async await. Hell, there's no really nice high-level threading libraries. And it turned out, and I think, Eric, you'll know this too, at the time, what was the old saying? If you're going to do threads, instead of one problem, you have two.
Right.
Most game developers did not know how to do parallel programming at all.
It's even not trivial now sometimes. So imagine back then. Exactly.
So what ended up happening is they just didn't do it.
Yeah, it's too hard. Yeah, why
it's
bother?
Too hard. I mean, it's to forget about it. I would argue this is a similar problem that Sony had with the PS3's cell processor, right? Technically a better processor, but what a pain in the butt to work with.
That's right. I remember the PS3, it almost like they took a step back in enabling developers an easy way to take advantage of the hardware. And that's consistent with what I've heard.
Yeah. So it gets worse, right? So now we're going to jump back to the Dreamcast. They decided to get fancy there too, because why not? Developers ended up not utilizing the whole GPU. Many of them just threw everything on the CPU, totally not taking advantage of any of the extra transparency and shading effects the Dreamcast had, and often making it that once the PS1 came out, the Dreamcast equivalent of the game looked inferior.
Oh, that cuts deep, because some developers did a good job. But
this was the sick part. Japan. Now, this is where the Americans are right. So the Japanese people did. This is another mistake. Do you know the processor that SOA wanted to use instead of this
Oh,
crazy Hitachi thing? Yeah.
yes.
Which
This
one?
a lot of drama. This is where they were using the PCFX
Hmm.
branch of the processor.
That ended up becoming a standard, right, in graphics. And
Yes, it did.
a little old company named Nintendo ended up having a conversation with those folks. So, yeah, this is a bad choice. And this is why you'll notice it's not always true, but it tends to be true. Japanese games where it was like a second party studio of Sega just seem a lot better performance wise than the American ones. It's because Sega of Japan was actually hand-holding them because by the time the Dreamcast came out, they knew their arcades were doomed. So they're like, "Well, this is the horse we got to ride."
That's right. That's right. And honestly, if no matter big or small of an organization in today's world, it's common to have like internal,
Oh yeah,
innovation days or innovation like hackathons to give people like an open way to bring innovation to something. But the way Sega conducted this with the Dreamcast development, doing this shady behind the back. Oh, by the way, we'll let Sega America have a team of like 11 people to try their side of it, and then Japan does their thing, and then oh, what a mess. Just such a mess, man.
yeah. And then Tom Kalinski's like referring the other processor company to Nintendo allegedly, which is crazy. It's like, yeah, I'm the CEO of one of your chief, or at the time, still your chief competitor. But yeah, why don't you just these guys will help you out?
Yeah,
Uh,
Tom, the author of many, many positive decisions. Wink, wink. Yep.
Oh God, Tom. Okay, so he's he still does interviews, which is wild. Like this man is fighting this battle till it's like the lost cause narrative. He's never gonna concede a damn thing. He's just it was their fault. No, SOJ screwed us over. No. When he did some crazy choices. All right, let's take a few of his, I would say, more questionable decisions.
Yeah, you got a lot to pick from, but go ahead.
So EA, do you remember the EA disaster?
Ho, 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 ho. Yes, yes.
Yeah. EA found a way to crack the Sega Genesis cartridges, thus defeating the DRM and making it so they could manufacture their own cartridges. We should probably tell younger folks that the business model used to be like a blades and razors model, where Nintendo and Sega, there's no Sony yet, right? Made money by saying you can make a game for us. Nintendo had a lot more rules than Sega did, but let's just ignore that. You can make a game for us, but we have to manufacture the cartridge, and you're going to pay us for the materials and the end quote the service fee, right?
Yes.
So basically, you're a forced buyer, and they had all kinds of IP law that was in their favor that I guess still would work, right? That says you can't crack our cartridge. Sega, not so much. Once Sega was far less litigious than Nintendo, which, I mean, post a YouTube video of your Super Mario mod today and see what happens, right?
Yep.
But this is one case where even though, we're both open source developers, we like, free as in freedom, I think they should have just sued the shit out of EA. Like, they knock them down a peg. Because
EA wasn't exactly nice to them later on for other
EA
reasons.
strong-armed them, right? Either
Exactly.
You make us a blessed developer.
Yep.
Allow us to manufacture our own cartridges, which we are going to pay you very little for the right to do. And you're going to do co-promotion. So Tom Kalinski's basket of money he's lighting on fire every 2 weeks for ads, he's now promoting the same company that screwed him over, which was incredible. Now, the advantage in the beginning was EA didn't like Nintendo, because I'm assuming Nintendo would have sent like ninjas to kill them if they tried this or something.
Yeah.
So they did have like Madden, they did have exclusives that really did well, but they weren't making much money on those games. EA was making all the money.
Oh, yet another questionable choice. But I remember being a young one growing up and then buying these, Genesis cartridges by EA and wondering, why did they look different?
Remember, some of them were like a different color, and then they had like the little yellow thing. Yeah,
that's why. Chip in the upper left. I'm like, well, this is novel. Okay, why is it only them? Well,
they were different.
More behind the story.
They were different because Trip Hawkins pulled a Godfather 1 on Tom Kalinski and was just like, "What are you going to do about it?" It's it was kind of crazy. That's terrible. We're going to find something. Okay, one positive thing they did It's unethical, but it's positive. What is blast processing?
Oh, well, it was, it was a big old marketing term here in Sega of America.
Straight lie. Yep.
Straight lie, right? Yep.
Right. Just
it was just
lie.
trying to show that they were so much faster than Super Nintendo, but it was, like I said, a blatant lie under the hood.
To the point where apparently Nakayama, right, the SOJ guy, called Kalinsky and was like, Tom, what is blast processing? You're just lying. Which that is my attempt at his accent, not very good. Kalinsky, like, again, if you accept in your heart that he's a marketing executive, it all makes sense. He didn't care that it didn't matter. He cared that it looked good in the crazy expensive TV commercials they were buying.
Exactly.
That was it.
All those advertising dollars had to have a big theme to it, and that was one of them.
All right, so I'm ready for you. Are you ready? Should we talk about the shrooms?
Oh, yes, please. Let's do it.
I don't even know where to start with this. It's sometimes it's like the Windows CE thing. It actually was a forward-thinking idea that went bad. It's just really bad.
Yep. And again, a microcosm of in the same company, two divisions having radically different ideas of what would be successful in the marketplace.
So let's say we have a 16-bit processor. What if we just slam in another 16-bit processor into it, and then we'll call it 32 bits?
Yeah, because that math checks out, just like blast processing.
Makes sense to me.
Yep.
I mean, and in their defense, there certainly were processing and graphical updates, but not much. I mean, not worth the price tag that thing came with. And it's extremely limited library of games when the development community was like, is this a joke? Yeah.
There was a reason that Nintendo never did anything like this. I mean,
Nintendo did do something like this.
Well, it was
with Philips.
Yeah,
well,
Philips. Yeah,
but then they stabbed Philips and Sony in the back, right? Because it's Nintendo. I gotta say, I feel like Tom should have just like maybe met Arakawa over in Seattle and just been like, show me your ways. He probably wouldn't have done it, but it's just comparing and contrasting, especially in the 90s. Nintendo was playing hardball left and right.
Oh, yeah.
Where Kalinsky's like giving into EA. He's, for some reason, defending third-party developers and getting his ass dragged in front of Congress. Or I'm sorry, his general counsel, who then got confused as to which company and said the wrong product.
It just gets better and better.
It's like, why are you defending Activision? Because of course, Mortal Kombat was the issue.
I know it. Yep.
And then they allowed the release of Night Trap, which was insane.
Oh my goodness! I'm so glad I didn't buy that. I rented it, but I was like, well, even that felt guilty just playing that abomination.
Yeah, I was young enough. I would have been hit with a wooden spoon. That was never coming in my house. He ended up like setting himself up to be the punching bag, and here comes Arakawa. Literally takes the stand. I'm very concerned about the children, and you're totally right, Senator Gore, because that's who we're dealing with, and Senator Lieberman. And he's just hammering them. Another loss. Who brought video game rentals to the American market?
Well, I mean,
it was Tom. Tom did it.
It was Tom.
It was Tom. Did he make any money off of it? Of course not.
Absolutely not. That was Blockbuster's cash cow there. Yeah.
I just don't understand. This guy, like, incredible. Other problems. The 32X. Why would you? Okay. Do you know why nobody makes add-ons anymore? Or really ever?
Well, to put the buzz term, the return on investment is just piss poor with how much complexity it adds to manufacturing and everything. Yep.
And your maximum ceiling of success is your total existing install base, which is never going to happen.
Exactly.
Crazy idea. But they're not done yet. So they promptly released the Sega CD right after that for some reason, which is also an add-on. This is where you get the Tower of Power. You have the mushroom on top, right, going through the cartridge bay, and hooked to the side, you could have the Sega CD. And in the middle, of course, the Genesis.
I did have each of them, their first gens of each of
Oh,
them, and that
man.
thing is high, and it would barely fit in the entertainment center we put it in because it was such a high footprint.
It's the Voltron of video game systems. It really, what's going on here?
Yes, and Voltron's a cool cartoon, by the way, but yeah, this is
Very
not what I had in mind.
successful, cool
Yes.
cartoon, unlike the Sega CD. So Sega CD, not much to say here. It existed for some reason.
Yes. Now, again, just like what I'll say, I'll hit both at once. They both have some nice gems of
They
games
do.
on there.
Star Wars on the 32X
Sonic,
is good.
Star Wars is good. Sonic CD,
It's good.
awesome stuff. And now for 32X, I am going to give its flowers for one game in particular. This was a perfect arcade port of Afterburner. Now,
True.
that probably makes you cringe because it's not like Afterburner was a contemporary game that came out many, many, many years ago in the arcade. So you would hope that something that costs that much money could do an arcade perfect port of that. But that just shows how sad I was that was the only game I remember with that and Virtual Racing are my top two. And it's not even close after that.
So I actually looked up screenshot comparisons of Genesis. Somebody has a website. It's crazy. You have to figure out which one is the 32X version.
Oh no.
I was hitting about 50-50 because there's no difference. Like, yeah.
Yep. And that's again the price you pay for being an add-on and just slapping on that additional quote unquote processor. And then still for mostly having the same sound too. It's not like that was a huge
same
step up.
sound chip. Yep. I think it was the same sound. It was just playing out of the Genesis.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
Okay. So they're bolting to 23 megahertz. Again, we're using Hitachi stuff. It's fine. Onto the system. Unfortunately, in the middle of all of that is the old Genesis processor, which you will still be constrained by because that's how hardware architecture works, right? Your slowest component is going to be your baseline.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody thought of this.
Well, maybe not the right people thought of it.
Not the right people thought of it.
I can't imagine a company the size of Sega that somebody in there was like, what are they thinking?
So some guy in Japan is like, oh, God damn it, Americans.
Yep.
God.
Probably not getting paid enough money to do dev work. And then this is what the higher ups are doing.
he's filling out his resume to Sony. It's like, you know what? I'm just not even going to bother.
Yep.
All right. We get a little better though, right? We almost are on the road to recovery.
Mm-hmm.
But the Saturn, I got to give it to the Saturn. If you've ever played like the Japanese import games, super good.
Yes, that's the thing.
Stuff.
Saturn was highly successful in Japan, but not here in the U.S. or other regions.
Unfortunately, Saturn is also suffering from the parallelism design because somebody just likes that over there.
Imagine
that. But again, you have 2G. So this one's a little different. It's not the same. You have a VDP1, a VDP2, which is basically a 2 GPU rendering system. I'm not going to go too much into it, but basically one was, so they had this idea, and this is like going to date us, but like getting like pixel perfect cartoon quality, was a thing back then.
Oh yeah.
And the other processor, the other GPU did quote 2D tricks. This is from their own documentation. 2D tricks, including multiple scroll planes, rotation, scaling pipelines, and overlays, basically to do Mach, like 2.5D, right? To do Mach 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing is this one can draw true polygon.
That's
true polygons, right. But only in the shape of quads. At least that's all I could find documentation on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what to say. It actually was a good system that sold horribly in the States and everywhere that wasn't Japan. We should say the one thing, the insane thing they did when they released it, instead of working with their retail partners and developers, Tom Kalinske, again, the man is like, he's like the Wile E. Coyote, gets on stage at a trade show, releases it that day, said it's shipping today, little problem, stores didn't have it, didn't know he was going to do it, kind of pissed because they're setting up their, Christmas extravaganza, right? Because if you know anything about retail, they make all their money fourth quarter. And he reveals the price.
Ooh.
Do you remember this one? This is bad.
It was bad, but it was a sticker shock, if I recall.
Well, it was $2.99.
Yep.
Or $3.99. I got to double check that. But the point is, like Gary Oak, Sony comes right up to stage right after them. The guy plays with his papers, acts like he's got a whole stack of papers, a lot of documentation, and he just says $1.99. Walks off the stage.
Mic drop. Yep.
Done. Game. I'll give Kalinske credit. In subsequent interviews, he said he almost took a heart attack because he's like, oh my God, they got us. Sony was just, it all started as a vendetta against Nintendo because Nintendo stabbed them in the back on a CD-ROM deal. And they just, I got to give it to them. When they go in hard.
They did their homework. They got the right people in charge. And when they launched that thing, it was successful everywhere. And you would have thought Tom, of all people, would not do something as boneheaded as to announce this general availability of Saturn, being a marketing dude, that he would have done his homework with the actual retailers that are going to sell his darn system. Like, what gives?
There's controversy on this one.
Oh, okay.
Tom claims that he was ordered to do it by the CEO in Japan. Seems like a crazy order to give, but
yeah,
I don't know if that's true.
There's a lot in this political backfighting that no one will know the true answer to.
Well, once the Saturn's out, we're already at the point where it is true that SOA and SOJ are just at each other's throats.
Yeah.
But the reason for that is SOA is spending money like a drunk sailor. And Sega, unbeknownst,
marketing money and all that,
unbeknownst to, according to Kalinske, he didn't know, but Sega is already in some dire financial straits. Of course, you're not going to advertise, hey, we're like on the verge of bankruptcy, because that's crazy.
Right. That's great for investors.
They were already bleeding. And so some of these like slightly schizophrenic moves, I would almost take them as a desperation. The problem is Sony, even then, was such a bigger company, a richer company. They had all that fresh Walkman cash and the old movie studios. They had all kinds of stuff that Sony just, once they decided to do it, they were really unstoppable. One, they were technically superior. I mean, I know there are people who are going to email in and be like, the Dreamcast, we're not there yet. But if you have more games, better games, and you become the by far de facto winner of the generation, I think you got it, right? You're fine.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where it is on the surface an outsider company suddenly having this extremely successful launch, and here's Sega being a games company through and through, and it's like the one time where that really bit Sega is that they just did not have the resources that Sony had at their disposal, not just in cash, but then that library. It's all about the library. That's what makes a games company successful.
Absolutely. But not only the thing I've learned in this like fourth round of research is even internally at SOA, there was dissension in the ranks. There was there was a small but passionate crew of more technically minded developers who didn't, vaporware, right? They didn't like the kind of because you got to remember, towards the end, the marketing stuff was getting weird. It was just like, I'm a bad teenager who's being disrespectful to his father. Like that was their brand for some reason.
That's right. Microcosm of the late 90s. Yeah.
Right. Sony's idea was, well, we do music, we do movies. This is just another type of media. Let's do it. Oh, and we have money to throw at people like Square Enix. Thing they really did to get them away from Nintendo.
And I think that was a wise choice. Yep.
I think that worked out quite well for them. Yeah. All right. So the Saturn, a little ray of hope in the dark, but only in Japan. Now we come to my fallen favorite child again. The Cast of Dreams. Yep. It is thinking. It's having some dark thoughts, though. It's seen the spreadsheets.
Oh, yes.
It actually did super well when it on its opening weekend. Remember $99.99?
Who can forget those? That was again a marketing blitz, but in a better way this time, and not a lie. It actually did come out.
It did well.
In America.
They actually got it. Oh, and they told the retailers beforehand instead of pissing them off.
Yes, it's amazing what you can do with a successful launch. Now, what the irony though is that it did come out about 10 months before that in Japan with a very different story. I think it had maybe 4 launch titles, and
Mm-hmm.
they were very odd, if I recall. One was like a chapter book, storybook kind of
They
thing,
were very Japanese. Yeah, yeah.
very Japanese, and they weren't ready for it at that point. So
So
that's
I was unable to find out why SOJ felt the need to push, because the launch, as you say, it's completely different. The American launch had actually a nice backing library. I guess SOJ just felt like they had to do something.
it could be, again, like you said earlier,
Yeah,
desperation and trying to get back into the market after after the debacle of the other systems. Even though Saturn was mildly successful, but they saw what was happening in the landscape. But man, like you said, the American launch title library, Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur was literally the first time I had seen on a home system, literally an arcade perfect port that was even better than the
it was better.
arcade.
It
It
was
was
yep, it was
better.
technically better than
Namco
the
just
arcade game.
slammed it home on that one. And then other countless, gems as well. And it's just so sad
Dead
when you
or
think about it.
Alive. You
Yep.
had a pretty decent lineup of sports games again. Crazy Taxi, Sonic Adventure. I think doesn't hold up today, but at the time was
Well,
amazing. Right.
remember the Sonic episode is probably later in our
Yeah,
podcast
our
journey.
future of.
Yes,
I just want to
but
say Sonic R. Just believe
Sonic
that.
R, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. But the other thing is that I think whether it was Sega of America or Sega Japan or both of them, they really lean into not just having quote unquote good games, but keeping it weird a little bit too. And that's where, again, totally different than the Saturn or the 32X or the other libraries. Because do you remember a hidden gem called Seaman?
Yeah, yeah. It's not what it sounds like, people.
No, it's not. But some people say this is kind of like a precursor what maybe later became things like Animal Crossing in a sense, where
Absolutely right. You're
you're
managing a
nurturing this
yeah.
kind of abomination of a fish sea animal with a human head. Which, by the way, do you happen to know who voiced that Seaman?
No, I don't.
Live long and prosper, Leonard Nimoy himself.
See, how do you lose when you have Spock on your side?
I mean, it's all right there, right? But this is all, who would have come up with that? But this is the first time people, especially in America, could play these very diverse set of library, and it ran pretty darn well.
They even had, it was going along with our nautical theme, a Echo the Dolphin sequel.
That's
I think
right.
it's Defend the Future or something like that. It's got a weird name.
Mhm.
Echo
Yep.
the Dolphin, huge win for Sega during the Genesis era, actually brought in a bunch of female gamers. Girls started playing.
Mm-hmm.
Did they botch it? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
It's so what happened, right? So this is, I'm going to actually defend Tom Kalinske for 2 seconds.
Okay. He deserves a little bit of defense here, but not much. But
Well, you can't be held responsible for things you didn't know about, right?
yeah, that's fair.
That would be my defense of him.
Okay.
By the time the Dreamcast launches in America, Sega proper, which is SOJ, right, the parent company, is dying. I mean, this is the financial situation is so bad that it's to get them out of the hardware business. Irakawa, who's the chairman, forgives a bunch of loans he gave to the company, gives back a bunch of his stock compensation with the order that the company should sell that stock to raise funds to save itself from bankruptcy. So literally, this man on his deathbed, he was like dying, I think, of cancer or something. On his deathbed, saves the company because he felt that it was like his name and all that kind of stuff. Kalinske allegedly did not know this, because I think that has to be true. Because if you knew this, you would stop throwing money around at athletes. And he had the kids from Home Improvement. Remember that show with Tim Allen?
Oh, one of my favorites. Yes.
And he had the one guy and the 2 girls from Saved by the Bell. Like, he was paying like teeny bopper stars to do these crazy mall tours and go on Nickelodeon. They produced a whole show on Nickelodeon. Like, he really, it was in his head that tween teen market was going to be their jackpot. And he was just, I guess he felt, if you see, I don't even know the character's name, but whatever. What was her name from Saved by the Bell?
Oh, fuck.
It doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Right. If you see the pretty girl from Saved by the Bell playing I think that was amazingly for the Sega CD, then you're going to buy one. And I looked, it wasn't like a little bit of money he was spending. So you can kind of see where the animosity was coming from SOJ, because they're like, I'm dying here. And you're throwing parties in malls and in Disneyland. Like, what's happening?
It is literally as if they were two separate companies with the way they operated, but yet we're not talking to each other about the most basic yet fundamental things that could affect each of them. It's ridiculous.
I don't understand why, because there was a lot of communication, right? There was, you had SOA people going to Japan to work there side by side. It was weird because on the technical side, this problem didn't really exist. You had Japanese developers embedded, SOJ developers embedded with the SOA team. You had American developers embedded with the SOJ team, and they all got along fine, and they produced some good work, specifically on Sonic 2, right?
Ah, yes.
But once you went up to like past the like VP level, or at the VP, they all, for some reason, I don't know if it's jealousy or like jockeying for position. It seems crazy to me that you wouldn't call Kalinske and be like, hey, buddy, cut the crap. We have no money.
In this day and age, it just is unfathomable how far this went, but yet it did. And like
I mean, it went to the bitter end, right? It really, they were great. For folks who weren't around, the Dreamcast just like died one day. They were like, oh, we're done.
It was literally what, 2 years, maybe 2 years at most. And it not just done in terms of just like a soft kill. It was done. It was literally, in fact, people wonder why was it called the Dreamcast. Some people speculate because it was kind of Sega's last ditch, quote unquote, dream to rescue the company.
You know what? It's that's why Final Fantasy, the first one was called Final Fantasy.
Exactly. Square thought their future was done, and yet definitely not final after how many sequels that thing has had.
Yeah. And then they bought their primary competitor, Enix. Not a story for another day, but
that's right.
Yeah, it's so we have to wrap up here for time, but if this was a trial, I think you can indict Tom Kalinske on almost every charge that the people who are against him lay against him. The only thing I think you have to save him on a little is financial mismanagement, because if you don't know you don't have the money, then is it really mismanagement?
Yeah, it's a great point. And it's not like he was doing anything too much radically different than the promotion in the 16-bit era, but it was just a much more successful company back then. And he was just riding the wave, and little did he know, things aren't looking good in the pocketbooks of the company.
It's also strange too, because the cases where they actually put the nonsense aside and decided to work together, Sonic 2, right, came out really good. There was a couple cases like that. And I almost wonder, like, I know this is going to be blasphemy for my fellow Americans, maybe SOA didn't need an independent CEO. Very famously, the CEO of Nintendo of America is not independent. Right?
Yes.
Like, what was his name? The guy who just retired a couple years ago. Reggie, right? Reggie
James.
Yeah. I mean, of course, day to day, he can do what he wants, right? But he takes marching orders, he takes business strategy and direction from Japan.
It was a very clear hierarchy back then.
It's a very clear hierarchy, right? It's very the old Empire of England, right? You're the Viceroy of America, but I'm the Queen, man. So, whatever. But you know what? They move in lockstep. They release their products at roughly the same time. They have a unified message. There's not this crazy infighting that was apparently going on.
And even with their little bit of missteps here and there in their company's life, it was never catastrophic. They rebounded, and
they rebound hard
after that.
Yep. And I always say the GameCube is actually kind of getting a revival, which is weird. But
hey, much love the GameCube, man. I sunk so many hours in Metroid Prime.
I was a hater. I was still smarting from my Dreamcast wounds, though. So
I know, I get it, but no, that Metroid Prime was amazing.
But as we wrap up here, don't worry, Eric. The Dreamcast lives in the Xbox. Ooh,
Oh, yeah, to cut deeper there. I know.
that's also probably going to get killed in some way because Microsoft is, having some issues. It turns out when you print money with Azure, a console business isn't that sexy.
Who would have thought that?
Who would have thunk it? So, Eric, where can people find you?
Well, when I'm not ranting about our yesteryear of gaming love, you can find me talking about all things R, the R language for statistical computing. So I have a podcast called the R Podcast, and also more recently a podcast called R Weekly Highlights, where we talk about the community curated resources in the world of R every single week, mostly weekly. You know how it is in the podcasting life. Sometimes the day job gets in the way of regular releases.
Oh, do I know?
Yes, but yeah, I'm also going to hopefully get back into doing some live streaming my dev code for my Shiny Developer series about the Shiny framework for web development in R. So,
nice. And we'll put links to all that in the show notes. And folks, check out the Discord. And you can, if you want to hire me to bash Tom Kalinske, go to alice.dev.
That's right in my Rolodex of who to dial first for anything bashing of Tom.
I'm really good at it. I mean, pour me a gin and tonic, I'm even better. So,
oh yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. All right, Eric.
Awesome talking with you again, Mike, and we'll have to do this again soon.
Well, you know what? When the Dreamcast 2 comes back, I still believe.
We still believe. Yes.
We still have faith.
And it's still thinking somewhere.
It's just sad thoughts. All right, bye, man.
Good to see you. Bye-bye.